Thank you, Peretz. Okay, so we have a major Lamda Shadaf tonight. Gershon should be on if he's in Europe, no? 5 hours, 12 o'clock. It's earlier than the other nights.
He's still in the pizza shop.
Could be. I don't know if they matter pizza shops in England. No, Matzah Shabbos. Anyways, so we're starting. We didn't finish the daf on Friday, but basically, the mishna had said that if a guy says he's a Nazir, and he said, not only am I a Nazir, but I'm going to sponsor korbanos for another Nazir. And then another guy heard him say that and said, Ani and Alai Legaleach. So he said two things, V'ani. And he also says, it's on me to be Megaleach Nazir. So the Mishnah had said, if these two guys are smart and they want to save themselves money, so they'll sponsor each other. And then they'll be off. Fine, that was the Mishnah. So the Gemara had asked that what happens if the guy just says V'ani without V'alai Legaleach? Would he have to take upon himself everything that his friend said? Meaning his friend said that he's a Nazir and he's going to sponsor a Nazir. Let's say the guy said Va'ani without anything else. So maybe he would have to sponsor both. So Gemara says, well, it's mashma not, because he had to say Va'ani, Va'alai Legaleach. So he needed to say both. Mashma, if he only said Ani, then he'd only go to half. Right? So then the Gemara had said, so okay, which half? Maybe it's if it's on the ratio or on the sefer. Meaning maybe when he says Ani, it's not going on that he's a Nazir. Again, the first guy said two things. He's a Nazir and he's going to sponsor a Nazir. So we said that the Ani only goes on half. But which half? Does it go on the first part, which means that he's a Nazir, or maybe goes on the second part and he's not a Nazir? He just has to sponsor a Nazir. So we said if he said Va'alai Legaleach, so then clearly the Ani part is going on the what do you call it? Is going on the part that is a Nazir. Fine. So then the Gemara says, Amar Lei, that's what we were holding on Friday. So we're about 10, I would say 12 lines up from the bottom. If you see the Taisus, you go up 2 lines into the Gemara. That's where it is. Again, it says V'im Hayu, and then 2 lines above that. He said, who says that that's what it is, that the Ani goes on the Nazir part, and the Alai Legaleach is going on the sponsoring part? Maybe the Ani is going on everything, right? That he's going to be a Nazir and he's going to sponsor a Nazir. And if you're going to say, well, then what is he saying? Well, Alai, right? What he's saying is, he's saying V'alai, meaning yes, I'm going to do the same thing V'alai, and it's on me, meaning I'm a big man, or something like that. Right? Meaning he's saying Ani, I'm a Nazir, and I'm going to sponsor a Nazir, V'alai, and it's on me. You know, like when you say to somebody, don't worry, it's all, I'm with you, and it's all on me. Right? Maybe that's what he means. Right? So I mean, again, we had said that Ani, we wanted to say that the Ani means it's going on the Nazir, and the Alai is going on the sponsoring the Nazir. So now the Gemara is saying, no, maybe the Ani goes on both. Oh, he said V'alai. Why does he need to say the extra V'alai? What is that coming for? So we're saying, no, that extra V'alai is coming to tell us that he's just like reiterating that he is going to be doing this. Right? So now the Gemara continues and says, right? Because if you don't say this, the Katani Seifa, the next Mishnah says, if a guy says that I'm going to sponsor a half a Nazir, and then the friend says, and me, I'm also going to give a haircut to a half a Nazir. Right? Are there two things? There's no in the Seifa, meaning the next Mishnah, it just says one case. I'm going to sponsor a half a Nazir. It doesn't say anything about the guy becoming a Nazir. So and there he says, and the friend says Ani and Alai. Now that Ani and Alai can't be like it's going on our Mishnah. Our Mishnah was saying that the guy said two things. He's a Nazir and he's sponsoring a nazir. So we're saying the ani goes on the nazir part, and the olai is going on the sponsoring the nazir, right? But the next mishnah is just one thing. It's that they're going to sponsor half a nazir. So what's the ani and olai going on there, right? Also, are there two things mentioned in that mishnah? Elamaika Omar olai. So why do you say olai? So he meant olai. It's on me, like that. I'm going to carry it. So too in the ratio, the ani is going on whatever the first guy said, which means a nazir and sponsoring a nazir, and then the olai is coming to reiterate that. So Gemara says that's not a proof. Samarle Rava, no, hochi hashta, that can't be, right? Hochi hashta. It's always hard to teach, but the literal translation means this now. What it means is hochi hashta. Can you really say what you just said? If you say that the reisha you need ani and olai, so seifa loy tzricha, the seifa doesn't need it, but tani seifa the loy tzricha misham reisha the tzricha. We do this all the time, right? We'll say something that doesn't really need to be said just because you want the two mishnayos to be aligned and use the same terminology. So since you said aniva olai and you needed it in the first mishnah, so you're saying aniva olai in the second mishnah even though you don't need it. But if you don't need it in the reisha, because ani goes on both, meaning on that he's a nazir and he's sponsoring the nazir, and the olai was not really necessary, and seifa loy tzricha, and then for sure the seifa doesn't need it. So tani reisha de loy tzricha, but tani seifa de loy tzricha. So now we're doing in the reisha and seifa, it says the word olai for no reason. Can't be that there's going to be two olais in the first case and in the second case, meaning the first mishnah and the second mishnah, and they're both meaningless. So therefore, his proof can't be a proof. Again, he wanted to bring a proof. Rav Huna Breder Rav Yeshua wanted to bring a proof that maybe the ani is going on the entire thing, and then the olai is just like he's supporting himself. He's saying, yeah, I got it. Right, it's on me. Right? Because he said in the Sefer, there's no two things. It's just that they're paying for half a nazir, yet it says ani and olai, right? So he said, so it must be that the reason why it's saying ani and olai, meaning it said it in the reisha, so we're also saying it in the sefer, right? To which Rav is answering back, no, that doesn't make sense, because you're going to say, why are you saying olai in the reisha for? If there's no reason to say olai in the reisha, so you have no reason to say it in the reisha, you have no reason to say it in the sefer, so then let's not say it, right? Meaning if you needed to say it in the reisha, so you're saying it in the sefer in order to keep the terminology aligned, but otherwise, why would you just say both of them extra? So therefore, there is no proof, and we're back to saying the bottom line is when the guy says ani, it's going on the nazir, and when he says olai, it's going on him sponsoring the nazir. Okay, that's the end of that. Now, because of this sugya, the Gemara goes off on a total tangent here and gets involved in a total different shaila, which had a lot of it was negeya. Dr. Zakharowitz is not on, right? This is one of his pet things. But anyways, we get involved with bittul baroiv here, bittul, and all those type of things. So basically, as a hakdama, before we start the sugya, we know that there's something called kol kavua kemechza al mechza and kol de parish meruba parish. Right? I don't have PTSD from school because they didn't teach this in elementary school. So therefore, I think I have actual. I like to believe that I have some sort of understanding of this, right? But anyways, so basically, the classic case, we had this many times. In Ksubis, we had it. Is that if you find something and you're not sure what the status is, so then it depends, right? Normally go with the majority, right? You say, where did it come from? Did it come from the majority? So then it's okay. If the majority is okay, then it comes from, then you're okay. If not, not, right? So the basic case is you have 9 stores of kosher and 1 store of treif, right? And now the guy finds a piece of meat in the street. So can we eat that piece of meat? Can you not eat that piece of meat, right? So the din is, it depends where you found it. If you found it in the street, since it's parish, since it was not found in any place, it's just wandering around the streets. Well, it's an inanimate object, but it's just hanging out on the street. So we say since it's
looking for the door. It's okay.
what?
It's looking for the door.
It's looking for the door. It's the piece of meat from the cow from 2 days ago. You're saying he's looking for his buddy the door.
He's looking for a haircut.
Correct. Or he doesn't want wine, or he's looking for his friend the wine. But anyways, yeah. So again, the piece of meat's hanging out in the street. So we say if 9 of the stores or the majority of the stores are kosher, then this meat is kosher. But if you bought the piece of meat in a store and you don't remember which store you bought it in, that doesn't go with Raiv. That we look like it's a 50-50. Because since the suffix started where it was kavua, it started in the place where the meat was. Therefore, we look at it as 50-50. Very difficult it's a simple concept to understand. It's difficult in the lumdis to understand why they changed it that way. But again, if it's found in the street, it goes with the majority. If it's found in a home, then it does not go with the majority, and it's looked at 50-50, and that piece of meat is assur, right? Even if most of the stores are kosher. Again, the difference is if the suffix started in the guys in the store, did the suffix start because that's where he bought it, or did the suffix start where he found a piece of meat in the street? So when it's found in the street, we go with the majority. When it's found when the shliach starts in the store or in a house or a makom that's kavua, then we say it's 50-50. Right? That's the basic to understand.
Even if it's in the house of a Shomer Shabbos or Shomer Kashrus?
No, but you don't remember. You don't remember.
Just going to ask that.
Oh, that's amazing that you and I are thinking along the same lines.
Not to be funny. You have a friend that shops in Chimchari.
I'm very happy I have a friend.
Okay, that's one good mile of the story. But we have a friend, but he happens to buy. He buys all his stuff at Chimchari, right. And you find it in his house, but you don't know if he did the shopping or his wife did shop. His wife only goes to the Vad stores. He goes to Chimchari,
right?
To expand Shua's conscience.
To take a practical application of this, right? So that would be a 50-50, and I wouldn't be able to eat there if I don't want to eat in Chimchari, 100%. But if you find the meat on the floor outside Chimchari, right? Then we'd have to go with the majority. That would still not be good because at the end of the day, the majority of restaurants are still tray. So, but theoretically, if you found a piece of meat in the street in Cedarhurst, you have to be chayshed. It came from, let's go with Cedarhurst Central. Let's say Central Avenue has its own din, right? So if you find a piece of meat on Central Avenue, then you could assume the majority comes from the Vad and not from, what's the name, 550, and not from 550. Oliver Shalom, right? But
550 still open and they're under the VOD now.
I understand. I'm saying that's what I'm saying. Oliver Shalom, the old 550,
when it was really good.
Correct. But anyway, so then I could assume that it came from the majority. But if I bought a piece of meat in a store and now I have no recollection because I went to 550 for the dips, right? And then I went to the other store for this and this, and I have no recollection where I bought the meat from, then it's 50-50, and then you can't eat it. All right, so again, if the suffix started in a house or a store, then it's considered 50-50, even if there's only one tray per store. If the suffix started in the street, then we go with the majority. All right, that's called kol kavua is mechza al mechza, and called the parish, and if it was separated, then we look at it that came from the Raiv. Okay, so now we start with the story, and then we'll get to the practical story, which is very interesting because in this story, there was a Maisa. I'll just say the story first, why not? And then we'll keep in mind, there was a story, Rabbi Aaron will remember this, we discussed it a lot, where a guy was going through a bitter divorce. And this guy, Chaya, if you can call him a guy, I don't know what you want to call him, he did a real smart thing. And he told the Bezdin, I married off my daughter to a guy, and I'm not telling you who the guy is. And therefore, this daughter is assur forever to marry anybody because she's an ashes ish based on her father, right? A father is allowed to marry off a girl less than age 12. So he told the Bezdin, I married my daughter off to a guy, but I'm not telling you who it is. So now she's an ashes ish. So the shaila is she assur to marry any guy in the whole world?
Bizman hazeh, you could do that?
We don't do it, but it can be done. Lamaisa can be done. That's the din.
Can we go on the Raiv that people don't do it?
No, that you can. No, if he did it, Lamaisa, he did it. There's nothing. There's
I mean,
nothing you
what?
can do
Rove
about it.
people are normal and this guy's not
What
normal?
was he
What's the
trying?
rove?
What was he trying to gain?
He was
Be a
trying to
jerk.
gain whatever in the negotiations. Either I don't remember what he was trying to gain: child custody or money, or Stam trying to make his ex-wife miserable. It was a big tumult in Klal
He's making
Yisrael.
his daughter miserable.
So he both. No,
He's
so
doing
both.
well. Yeah, he didn't care. We're not
So-
talking about the Tzaddik of the
so-
Year guy. You know what I'm saying? This guy wasn't winning the Tzaddik of the Year award, right? So
It's
this is
classic
what he
kasha
did.
for Meiser. This is a Meiser
Yeah.
that happened. So,
Right. So Rabbi Yasha was involved. I think Shlomo Zalman, Rabbi Ramnik is a part of the Racha, who's Garada. They're sitting shiva for his wife. Now that's what do you call it? He wrote a whole tshuva being muttar. I wanted to look for the tshuva because I know my father had the tshuva, but I couldn't, and I can't say I couldn't find it. I forgot. I said I'm going to go look for it, and then I forgot to look for it. But
I told you, my brother-in-law, Elder Sheldon, was the wife's lawyer.
was the Lord, right?
Yeah.
So
It
maybe
happened to say, he died. He got killed in the train crash the same time. This was in the middle. Yeah.
that's when that happened. Yeah. Okay. So basically, what was I saying? So the shaila is, it's based on this Gemara right here coming up. Whether you could be muttar. Pashtus is from this Gemara, from the Tosfos, you might be able to be muttar. So now let's see. So Amar Rav Yitzchak, bottom line, you don't have a base. Amar Rav Yitzchak by Yosef, Amar Rav Yochanan. Ha'amar l'shluchai. If a guy told his shliach, I'm talking about Aleph now. Talk about a guy who gave up on the shidduch situation. This guy decided he's done with dating. He just told the shliach, "Seva kadesh li isha stam. Just go marry me a lady. Take some money and go marry me a woman, and that will be that, right?" And the Mefarish here says he didn't tell him what city to do it in. He didn't tell him which woman to marry. He just told him, "Go marry me a woman." Fine.
Does
Then
he has to see her? He has to see her first.
The shliach has to see her. Somebody has to see her. Yeah. So he's not going to. You're right. He's not going to be makayim that din. But he was doing kedushin. It's only kedushin, not nesuin. So I'm not so sure if that gemara is talking about kedushin or nesuin, right?
If we make this a new concept now, it'll solve the shliach crisis.
So this guy married for this guy a woman. Yeah, again, the shliach went and he married a woman, and then he died, the shliach. So he has no idea who he's married to. So now what? So that's not shver. Well, a man can marry multiple wives, right? But it is shver. Assur b'chol hanoshim sheba'olam. He's still assur to every woman in the world. Why? Chazaka shliach shlichusai, because there's a chazaka that a shliach does his shlichus. The kiman delay kadishlei, and since he didn't tell him who the wife was, he has no idea who he's gonna marry, who he married to. Now every lady in the world can be married. It could be her sister, it could be her mother, it could be her daughter, it could be all sorts of. It could be any sort of situation. So therefore,
but we're sure that he fit. But we're sure that he did the shlichus, that he actually married some.
We say chazaka shliach shlichusai.
Exactly. I was going to say use the shliach to solve the shliach crisis in general.
Of doing this, of course.
Wait, you could have a case where a woman has no sisters, no daughters, no mothers at the time when this guy.
Stick around another 5 minutes. Stick around another 5 minutes.
1 second. You mean if he doesn't have? Yes.
No, there's if a woman doesn't have a mother that's alive, any daughters, any sisters
so the Gemara is
that are
going to say
alive.
that exactly. Yes, the Gemara is going to say that in a few lines. Why it doesn't say it right here, right now? I think if it first has a different kasha to ask. But yes, the Gemara is going to say that. Very good. Right? If she doesn't have, well, the question is she
he
may
doesn't
not know
who the
herself.
woman is. He doesn't know who the woman is. So
No, but if a woman, can he marry a woman who has no mother, no sister, no anything?
Can who marry some?
This guy. Meaning the whole problem is he can't marry any woman because he doesn't know. Maybe he was married to this woman's sister or mother or daughter.
Right.
But what happens if the woman that he wants to marry, the mother died, the sister
that's
died,
the
and
question. I don't understand the question.
Yeah.
Fine.
Right. So, and you know what? Another similar practical application of this is when we discussed this also in Ksubis, this is why Ramosha holds that if Nebuch, a man, can't have kids, if it's the man that's the problem, So Ramosha paskins that you can go take donor sperm, and that's not considered znus, because znus is only through an actual mice of intercourse, right? But if it's done in a lab, that's not mice znus. That's what the Sama Rebbe went wild against him on that kula. But Ramosha says you cannot use a yid. You cannot use the zera of a yid. You have to use the zera of a goy, because if it's a yid, you have no idea if you're marrying your sibling eventually, right? You have no idea, right? But if it's a guy, there's no siblings, so then it's not a problem, right? Which is, it's wild, but that was the big fight between it says sort of.
Why can't the wife come forward?
The wife come forward.
The shliach died. But there's a wife here.
Well, obviously, if the wife came forward,
accepted
there's no
if she came forward, there's no case.
Yeah, if she comes forward,
Right.
we don't know who the wife
I'm not
is.
so sure we have
She's
a.
not
I'm not
around.
so sure she's Neman. I'm not so sure she's Neman. You have a different kasha.
With Yaakov, that sort of Taisus kasha. Taisus says that the whole world can't get married to anybody.
Right. So that's
because maybe it's her.
Different. Right. So that's. I was going to hold
Taisus
on.
says the Gedolos would be Neman. If she's a Gedola, she'll be Neman to say. The Katana.
Right. So yeah. So what Yitzi's saying, Taisus says a palm kasha. Taisus is saying, how does any lady in the world get married? That's what I'm saying with the Rabbi Ramnik tshuva with that story. How does any lady in the world get married? Every lady in the world is a suffix that maybe she's married to this guy. So are you going to say that she said, I am not married to him? Who says she has nemonis? Right. Okay, well, we'll get back to that. Let's just do the basics.
What do you mean?
Why wouldn't you have nemonis?
Why? Yeah.
Ein echad neman be assur, and ein echad is neman. Then neman by all the Aguna cases, or never the people who came out of the laga and so on and so forth. So what? Why would this be worse?
Oh, so Taisus says that Nashim are believed that they did not get married to anybody. Whether they believe that they got married to somebody is a different story. But they're believed that they did not get married. So that works for a gadol. But for a katana, how does she know her father didn't marry her off without telling her? Right? So that's what Taisus says. So meaning every gadol in the world would be okay according to Rabbeinu Tam. But every katana, how's it going to work? So Taisus answers, once we're doing the Taisus, we might as well do it. Midaraisa, even he is muttar to marry because you go basaroid. Right? And then there's knas. And okay, the rest we need to do with the Taisus, with the Gemara first. But anyway, so Taisus asked that kasha. Either way, so the psak in the Gemara here is if he makes a shliach to get married to somebody, and we don't know if the shliach did it or not, but the chazaka that the shliach does the shlichusa, and we don't know, he can't be marrying any woman who has sisters or brothers or mothers or whatever it is. Okay, we'll see soon what this has to do with our Gemara. So Esrei, 4 lines down now. Esrei, so Cain, stuma. If you have a nest, stama nest. So okay, with another hadama before we go weiter. So you have there's certain azav and yoledes and the mitzayra need to give 2 birds or shnei b'nei yoyna, depending what they could afford. Right? Shnei tayra and shnei b'nei yoyna. And one is a chatas and one is an oila. Right? So what happened here is that they separated the 2 birds. He said, okay, these 2 birds in this nest, I'm bringing one as my chatas and one as my oila. Givaldi. But he didn't say which one is the chatas and he didn't say which one is the oila. Fine. Then parcha, one of them flew away. One of them flew away into the world. Or or what it did is that it flew into a whole group of birds that were supposed to die. Why were they supposed to die? Because the owner died. The owner separated them for a covered chatas, then the owner died. So the din then is that you cannot be makriv these birds anymore. They had kedusha, but you can't be makriv korbanos on behalf of somebody who died. Right? So those are the 2 cases. One is that the bird flew away, or it flew amongst chatas, or one of the birds died. So now we don't know which one is the chatas, which one is the oila. So what do? He comes zug l'sheni. What you do is you take another bird and you put it to the second one, right? So and then and that's it. And so now you have now you appoint it. You appoint one for an oila and one for a chatas. No big deal. right? Vilu came for Eshes ain't like takana. But what's mashma? That's only because he never said which bird gets which. But if he had said that the bird number 1 is a chatos, and bird number 2 is an oila, right? So then it sounds like there's nothing to do. Vilu sharkin and ba'alma, misakin, but all the other birds in the world, you can be misakin them, right? Va'amai. Lema kol chada v'chada dilma hai niyu. Why don't we say that every bird in the world is one of the pair that got lost? Again, we're talking about where the guy said he had 2 birds and he said one's a oila, one's a chatas, and then it flew away, right?
What?
So we're saying that then there's nothing to do. That's very nice, but why? How can you ever bring any bird anywhere in the world? Maybe
we already said this in Psachim.
That what?
About Bedikas Chametz, with the chul that took a piece. In Canaan Ladavas Soif. Nobody's yoitz of Bedikas Chametz in the whole world. We said that. We don't say that. We don't say that.
No, but here it's a shaila of bittul. Here the suffix already happened. We don't know. There's a bird flying around the world somehow, somewhere, somehow. That is.
But I did Bedika 5 o'clock, and then the chul that took my chametz. And Avi's doing Bedika at 9 o'clock, and Gershon is doing did Bedika in London, and the guy's doing in Australia 6 hours after. So it's the same name with the
No, it's not. No, it's not. That's a little different. I think that's a little different because there we don't know. We don't know that there was a piece of chametz taken. There was a chashash. How do you know?
No, we know there's a piece of chametz taken. We know it.
No, ain't chashash and shema ger chulda. We're not chashash that the chulda did it, but if the chulda did do it, it could be. If the chulda did do it,
then nobody in Far Rockaway has. No, everybody has chametz shaval Pesach. Everybody.
So I don't know, but if you put out 9 pieces of chametz, 10 pieces of chametz, you only find 9. You got to redo the whole particular chametz, right? So that would be, I think, right? Whatever. But so what do we say? The Gemara is saying, well, it's lema kol chad v'chad doma hayniu. Maybe every bird in the world is one of these that's assur, right? So what's the kasha? So the kasha is, so obviously that's not a problem. Why? Because kol de parish, meruba parish, right? Meaning every bird in the world, we're going to say, okay, maybe it's assur. The reason why you're not saying that is very simple. Where's the bird flying around in the world? That's considered in the streets. So we go basa the majority. The majority of birds in the world are not korbanos. So therefore, it's muttar, right? That's fairly straightforward. Good. So why don't you say the same thing about a woman? Say the majority of the women are, you go with the kol de parish, miruba parish, right? So the Gemara answers, I'm telling you about a suffix of a woman who doesn't move, meaning a woman stays home most of the time, right? So that's called a kavua.
What
So
woman stays home most of the time?
What? Before you got married.
Okay. So I'm saying we're talking about in the old times, in the older days.
22 years ago, women started traveling around.
We're talking about in the old days. Okay.
Right.
We're not talking
in the
about
old
it
days,
now.
The night before your chassan, the women started traveling around.
Kol kvu de bas melech penima, right? Yeah. So whatever it is, meaning, but what do you call it?
Each of the loinida is permanent. She goes out.
So we're going to get back. So we're going to get to that. But he's saying, I'm talking about a woman. Bottom line is most dates happen inside a house. They don't happen in the street. Let's go that way, right? So right now is a suffix. Is this his wife's sister, his wife's mother, his wife's daughter, etc., etc.? So memela, that's called a kavua, which means that we consider it 50-50, and you have to assur it. Isura deny it, and you're telling me about a woman, a isur, a bird that's flying around. There we go with the majority.
Just can you explain to me what is kavua?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Kavua means it's in a set place.
I understand, but what determines if it's kavua or not?
If it's not in the streets, it's in a home, a building. If it's in a building or something like that,
Wow.
right? Yeah. So, anyways, the what? No, yes. So, again, so he says, "V'amar li at isur denied." You're telling me an isur that's moving around like a bird. So you say, "V'chitei ma'acham nami na'id." You say a woman also, like David is asking. Women also move around. They don't just sit home. So Eimer b'shuka ashkach b'kadosh, because we're going to say that the woman, he found a woman in the street and he was mekadosh, meaning this shliach, right? The shliach was mekadosh the woman in the street. Let's say hasam hadru l'nichusa, but there by the woman she's going to go back home. Kabi kain li hadra, but by the birds, do they go back? No, they're flying around the world for the rest of their life. Who says they're even going back into a nest? So he's saying, so even if you want to say that the woman taka does move around, right, which they do, but they're always going back home. They're always going back home. So therefore, you can't compare the two cases. So that's why the woman, he would be assur, and the men would be, but not the men. The birds would be muttar, right?
Okay.
Yeah, fine. So that's what the Gemara is saying. We still haven't got to what this has to do with our Gemara. So Omar Rava, this is what Abi was saying before. Omar Rava, if a woman doesn't have a daughter or a daughter of a daughter or a son's daughter, for those that learn Sefer HaChinuch, this is bringing back memories that we've been doing for the whole winter. We've been dealing with shniyas and arayas back and forth.
Cheap
right?
wedding.
That's true, right? So let's say the woman has no relatives whatsoever.
He married a Gyaris the minute she came out of Bezdin.
You could say, but with problems, we don't know if the shliach did that, right? So
true, we don't know
yeah, so v'loy aim, v'loy achais, all alone. This woman is all alone. And even though she had a sister, she had a sister, and the sister got divorced. This is the important part that's going to lead to us to our Gemara. Again, she got married to it. There was a sister, so maybe he should be assur. But she was married when he made the shliach. When he made this guy a shliach to marry somebody, this lady had a sister who was married, and she only got divorced later after the shliach died, right? Or after the shliach was made a shliach. Tahi sharia. In that case, the woman is muttar. Why? Because there's no chashash that this guy is marrying his wife's sister, right? My timer. What's the reason? So meaning, what's the reason for the last case that if the woman had a sister, this woman had a sister who got divorced, right? So the Vaishat the Kamer Lay, at the time where he made the shliach, have a nesivin legavri, she was married to a man. So kimashvi shliach, and when this guy made him a shliach, but Milsa the kaima kameh, he told him marry somebody who is standing in front of you right now, meaning somebody who I could potentially marry. The Milsa the loy kaima kameh, but something that's not standing in front of him, meaning somebody that he cannot marry. Loy mashvi shliach, he didn't make him into a shliach. So since the sister was married at that time, he did not have in mind for this guy to go say, meaning maybe the shliach said to the sister, goes over to the lady in the street and says, hey, you want to marry this guy? This guy made me a shliach to marry. The lady says, see my finger, I got a ring on it. He says, okay, so divorce your husband, and then you'll get married, right? So we're not choshed for that. That's what the Gemara is saying. We're not choshed for that because he only is making him a shliach to marry somebody who can marry right then and there, not somebody who needs to go through a process in order to allow marriage. So therefore, we know for sure that this divorced woman is not his wife, even though right now she's divorced. So therefore, he could marry her sister, right? We're following that? Meaning we're not choshed that the shlichus was made for something that eventually will come muttar. If the shlichus is made for something that's muttar right then and there. Okay, so that's what he said. Now here's what this has to do with our Gemara. So Tanan, Hareini Nazir, Nazir, our Mishnah says I'm a Nazir, and I'm going to sponsor a Nazir. And his friend heard and said, and he says, and me, and it's also on me to a Nazir. And when you pick him, if they're smart, they could pay for each other's haircuts and korbanos. They can be megalach, they can give haircuts to other Nazirim. So now, after all this is where it comes down to. It's a bishlam of Basra. So the second Nazir who said, and I'm going to do what the first guy did, there was a Nazir standing in front of him. So he was able to say, oh, I'm going to pay for this guy's korbanos. But the first Nazir, right? How could he say that he's being yoitzer? What he said, I'm going to sponsor a Nazir. Mika Basra Kamei. Was there anybody in front of him to make into a Nazir? He didn't know that there was a Nazir in front of him, right? Meaning when the second guy said, I'm also going to be a Nazir, I'm going to sponsor a Nazir. He had a Nazir standing right in front of him who was ready to go that he could sponsor, right? But the first guy had no Nazir in front of him that he's ready to sponsor. So how does that neder work, right? Same thing. So the Gemara is asking, so then what's with this guy? Maybe the shliach did make him maybe the guy made him a shliach to marry a woman who's divorced at that point, as long as she eventually will become single, right? So that's what the Gemara is saying. So the Gemara says on top of base, Ella Hachi Ka'amar. So what you're gonna have to say is like this: What you have to say is, if what the guy meant is, if I find somebody who's a Nazir, I will make him. I'll pay for his korbanos. Hachanami. So here too by Rabbi Yochanan, Hachi Kamarlei, if you find somebody who was divorced, Kaddish leave him a Kaddish her to me, right? So Memela, so therefore there should be a problem for him to there should be a problem for him to marry the sibling, right? Because maybe Hitaka made a shliach, and the shliach married off this woman who was divorced, right? So that's the kasha. Again, we're trying to compare cases from our Mishnah where a guy could theoretically say that he's going to pay for a Nazir korbanos when he doesn't have a Nazir in front of him. So maybe the shliach made maybe the mishaleach, the guy who wanted to get married, made the shliach into a shliach to marry him a woman who will be divorced eventually, right? And therefore, he should not be able to marry a woman whose sister was married at the time he became a shliach. So it says, Amri, loy mashri in a shliach. No, we have a new rule of shlichus. A person does not make a shliach, only something they can do right now. A shliach, a mishaleach can only make somebody a shliach to do something of him that's muttar right now. But if it's not muttar right now, loy mashri, then he didn't make him into a shliach, right? And the pshat in this is the way the Rosh says it. It's not in this world, right? So a person, when he makes somebody into a shliach, she's only making him into shliach to something that's muttar right now. And since this woman was married at that point, when he made him into a shliach to marry a woman, he did not make him a shliach to marry this particular woman. That's why he can marry the sister. Yeah.
So Yom Kippur by Mincha, you can't say to somebody, after Avdallah, can you pick me up a pound of lox? You can't do that? It's not a shliach?
What?
It's also now.
It's assur to eat, not to pick up.
It's also to eat. That's what I'm talking.
So but as a shliach, you're not assigning someone to eat it for you. Here you're saying
I'm asked. That's why I'm asking the question.
What are you asking?
On Yom Kippur, you ask somebody when after Avdallah, pick me up a pound of lox. Avi's saying right, and probably right. That is now.
Isn't that hachana?
Hachana after Yom Kippur.
Forget hachana. I'm talking to regular people, not such OCD people, normal people. Forget hachana.
Aaron, how about a fresh chocolate Danish? You got to go straight to the locks, maybe?
I have a Danish in the house.
Oh, okay. Not worried about
I'll
it.
just spell out the whole case for you.
Hey, can you make a shliach to buy you meat from an animal that's not yet shechted? That would be a more
Okay, good.
for the OCDers. We'll get a case that can you make a shliach to buy you meat for an animal that's not yet shechted? I don't know. You would think that you could, right? You
Yeah, I mean,
you could.
Yeah, when you go to the shlachtos, yeah, exactly. In a more normal case, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know, Taka. I don't know, but that's what the Gemara is saying now, that the rule is that you can't make a shliach for something that's assur at that point. So the Gemara says, V'loi, and
but like Amazon on the last days of Pesach, you don't know when they're going to ship it.
Okay, I hear that.
Well, that's a good one, Peretz.
So, but I don't know if that's a shliach.
I think
guy's not your shliach.
Amazon Subscribe and Save for Pesach.
Yeah, but right. So is the guy your shliach? Is that how we look at it? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Well, it's maybe that's called that it's going to happen automatically. It's also davar shalom. Maybe also that's to do. What's the loss? What's the law? Meaning, he made him a shliach. Okay, so he did. So, and let's say the shliach is not a shliach. So then what? So then he's coined after the animal is shecht. Okay, I don't know. Okay, anyway, so Gemara says v'loi. So Tashima, so we had this Gemara in the Darim, Ha'imr l'apotropos shaloi. Somebody tells his apotropos. Call the Darim, right? Apotropos is a guy in charge of his estate, right? So call in the Darim shatidar ishti. Any nether my wife makes, mikan achavi makamplaini, until I come back from my business trip from makamplaini, haferla. Be made for it for her, right? He's going on a business trip. He says to his guy in charge of his estate, he says, if my wife makes the Darim, just be my shliach and be made for it for haferla, and then he's made for it. Yachal you mufar, and so you would think that they're mufar, that they're considered nullified. Isha yikimenu, isha yiferenu. The man has to be makayim the wife's nadarim, and the man has to nullify them. Divrei Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Yoshia says, so basically you can't make a shliach because the pasuk says the husband has to be the one to do it. Rabbi Yonasan Omer, Matzinu b'chol makom sheshlucha shalom kamaisai. Why don't we say shliach shalom kamaisai? Why can't this guy do it for the husband? Why can't the apotropos do it for the husband? It's his shliach, right? Shliach shalom kamaisai. Yes, the pasuk says the husband has to do it, and the wife. I'm
saying, what's Rabbi Yoshi's timer? What's Rabbi Yoshi saying?
Rabbi Yoshi is saying the pasuk says the man has to be the one to do it.
So there's no shluchah shalom kamaisai.
That's exactly what Rabbi Yonasan answers about.
I understand, but what Rabbi Yoshi doesn't hold the shluchah shalom kamaisai.
He does, but he says that there's an exclusion by Nadarim. By Nadarim, there's an exclusion. And Rabbi Yonasan says there's an exclusion by Nadarim.
Why?
Says,
Why?
No.
Why?
But I think the double lashon of Isha, maybe Isha Yikimenu, Isha Yiferenu, right? He should have just said Isha Yikimenu Yiferenu. Her husband should be made, right? But he says both. So then Rabbi Yoshi is saying that the husband has to do it. Rabbi Yonasan says no, it's shliach shalom kamaisa. Oh, so time of Rachmana Isha Yikimenu Isha Yiferenu. The only reason is because the pasuk actually says it. Halav hachi. If the pasuk would not have said that the husband is the one that has to do it, apotropos meifas, and then the apotropos would eliminate it, right? He would be able to nullify it. Bilu gabedi day, right? And then what about the husband? Tani, we learned in the Brisa. A guy tells his wife, "Kol nedarim shetiduri mekan v'adshavu v'makamplaini you kayamin." Lo yamar klum. If a guy says to his wife, "Okay, if you make, I'm leaving overseas. if any nedarim you make from here on out, I'm pro. So that he said nothing. Harehe mufarim, but let's say he's made for it. Now again, he's being made for it in advance. The first case is he's being makayim it. He's saying, hey, whatever you say, I'm good. Right? The second way is that he's being made for the nedarim before. He says, any neder you make while I'm gone is eliminated. So Rabbi Eliezer Mufar, Rabbi Eliezer says, yeah, you could do it. A husband could be made for nedarim before they even take place. But Chachamim and the Chachamim say it's not mufar. So because that is a very long kasha here. So so we're thinking now, when Rabbi Yoshi said that a shliach doesn't work for being made for nedarim, aliva the rabbanon the amri lo matzi mefa. He was going according to the rabbanon who say that a husband cannot nullify his wife's nedarim in advance. V'lav damar achmana, and if the Torah didn't say isha yikimen of isha yiferenu, if the pasuk would not have said that, then apotropos hoya mefer, and apotropos would be able to be made for it, right? So bottom line with all this is that you see that a shliach he could have made without the pasuk. He could have made this guy into a shliach to be made for his wife's nedarim. Now the wife didn't even make the nedarim yet. So how is he making a shliach to be made for his wife's nedarim if the wife didn't even make the nedarim yet? Elamai, you see that a man can make a shliach for something that can't happen at that point. Right? Yeah, because Rava, what did Rava say? Yeah, so because Rava had said that you can't, you cannot make a shliach for something that's not in existence yet, and that's not possible to happen. But here, it has to be that it could happen, right? Because he must be going, Rabbi Yoshi has to be going according to the Rabbanon that you can't be mefa. So then the Gemara asks the kasha, but don't leave it to Rabbi Eliezer. Who says he's going to Rabbanon? Maybe he's going to Rabbi Eliezer, right? Who holds that you can't be made for the Amar. I'm sorry, who said the Amar Matzi Mefer, who says a husband can be made for the Nedarim, right? So then it's not a problem because the husband can be made for the Nedarim before the wife even makes it. So he can make a shliach do it too. So Gemara says, okay, so if a husband could be made for the Nedarim, if you're going according to the Chachamim who hold it, the husband could be made for the Nedarim, what does he need to make a shliach for? Again, this guy, before he went on his business trip, right, or whatever trip, he made a shliach to be made for his wife's Nedarim. Right? If you're going, so we're assuming you're going to Rabbi Eliezer, who holds a husband can't be made for the Nedarim in advance, so you needed to have a shliach, in which then you have the machlokes whether the shlichus works, right? So Gemara is saying no, maybe it's going according to Rabbi Eliezer that says you are allowed to be made for it, right? So if that's the case, the Gemara says, why do you need a shliach then? If a husband could be made for his wife's Nedarim in advance, what does he need to ask the guy in charge of his estate while he's gone to be made for the wife's nedarim? He should just be made for it before he goes. So you can't say that it's going according to Rabbi Eliezer. It must be going according to the Chachamim, who say that you can't be made for the nedarim in advance, in which case you need to hire this apotropos who's in charge of the estate to be made for the wife's nedarim. Fine. So the Gemara says, Kasavar Dilma Mashtalina Rasachna. No, he says maybe I'm going to forget, or I'm going to be upset, or I'm going to be busy before he leaves, right? We had this teretz in Nedarim, meaning the guy, yes, you're right, the guy can be made for the Nedarim in advance, but he doesn't want to take the risk of forgetting to tell if he hears the Nedarim, or even if he doesn't hear the Nedarim. No, it has to be if he doesn't hear. He's afraid that before he leaves, he's going to forget to do this. So therefore, he tells the guy in charge of his estate, by the way, in case I forget to be made for my wife's nedarim, if you hear my wife made a neder, just nullify them, right? That would be, and then you could say that it's going according to Rabbi Eliezer, in which case he could make a shliach, and the shlichus is for something that is possible to be done, and therefore there's no kasha. So the bottom line is maskanas hasugya here seems to be that what Rav is saying is not shlugged up, and a shliach cannot make a shliach. He can only make shliach for something that's muttar right at that point. If it's going to eventually become muttar, then there's no chance. So therefore, a nazir can say that he's going to pay for another nazir's korbanos, even if the guy is not yet a nazir. Right? That's A, and B. is a guy whose shliach went and he married him off to somebody in the world, we have no idea who, he would be allowed to marry a woman who only had one sister, and that sister was married at the time that he made her into a shliach. Okay. It wasn't so easy, that Gemara. Fine, let's just see the next Gemara. It's a short thing. So Zok the Mishnah. We already had this. So So here the terminology is very important because it can make all the difference in what the terminology is. The guy says, it's on me to pay for the haircut of a half a nazir. And me too, it's on me to pay for a half a nazir. They both have to pay for a full nazir, not half their nazir's korbanos. They have to pay for the whole thing. Even though they said half, they have to pay for the whole thing. Right? Yeah.
What? I don't understand. What's the case?
The korbanos or for his haircut?
Well, it means the haircut is.
Why? They went to the barbershop with Avshalom every week to get a haircut. This guy.
No, but he's a nazir, right?
Yeah. So Avshalom is a nazir.
We say haircut. When we say haircut, we mean no. I'm saying when we say haircut, he means that you take the haircut and then the korbanos. It's another way. Why Taka doesn't say korbanos, I don't know, Taka. Why doesn't it say korbanos?
Again, I don't understand. Again, what's the case? I don't understand.
The guy says, I'm paying for half of the korbanos. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I didn't say it right. He said, I'm paying for the haircut of half a nazir, which means he's paying for the korbanos of a half of a nazir. Right now, there's no such thing as a half a nazir.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Exactly. So that's what the mayor says. You're on pay for all the korbanos, not half the korbanos. There's no such thing as half a nazir. So you meant nazir, and therefore you got to pay for full korbanos.
Okay.
Right.
Maybe he meant a nazir shimshon. Who only does half the stuff.
No, but a nazir shimshon, I don't think never brings korbanos. No. Unless he becomes
better, it's very good for him. Doesn't have
you mean he could say, yeah, but then what is he? Then okay, I hear. Yeah. So
I mean, the haircut costs $20. Is paying $10 on the $20 haircut.
No, he's paying for the korbanos, for the 3 korbanos.
It means the korbanos, right? Right. The way look at the Mafayr says. So anyway, so Rameir says he has to pay for the whole thing because no such thing as chatzi nazir. No, each one pays for half, right? So we can say half. Yeah. So let's see. This is Gemara clarifies.
It's amazing. I had no idea that they paid for haircuts in the time of the Gemara. Like they have beauty parlors.
See, that's what I'm not sure if they actually paid because didn't the Kehanim have to give him the haircut? Did they? I don't know. Do you have to tip the Kehanim? Do you give him Trumas and Maestros? What?
Wasn't free, I'm sure. When was the last time something was for free?
Wasn't Haman a barber?
No, Haman was a barber. Yeah, Haman was a barber.
Oh,
That's true.
Okay.
Haman, yeah. Wow. Anyways. Okay, so let's see the Gemara. So everybody agrees. If he says half, see now here's where the terminology makes a big difference. He says half the korbanos of the nazir on me, chatzi korban maisi. Then he only has to bring half, right? Because he says half of the nazir's korbanos. Then he only has to bring half of the nazir's korbanos. Korbanos chatzi nazir olai. If he says the korbanos of a half a nazir on me, then kule korban. Then he needs to bring the whole korbanos. Why? Because everybody agrees that there's no such thing as a half a nazir, right? I'm sorry, I stopped mid-sentence. Kule korban by assur. He needs to bring the whole korban. My timer, the haloi ashkachan nazirus lapalga. There's no such thing as a half a nazirus. So again, if he said half of the korbanos that the Nazir has to bring, everybody agrees it's half. If he says the korbanos of a half a Nazir, everybody agrees that he has to bring the whole thing. The lishon of the masnisin pligi. In the Mishnah's lashon, which is hareya alai legaleya chatzi Nazir. That's where it's a machlokes. Since he said it's on me, chayav akule korban nazirus. He's chayav on the whole korban nazirus. Chatzi nazirus lav kol kamine. Right? That's not in his. It's not in his koyach. It's not in his power, right? To do half, right? Meaning he's trying to. He already said it's on him. Once he said it's on him, then it's on him for the korban. He's saying, "Oh, chatzi, that doesn't." That's sort of what we did in the beginning of the end of last week. Once he says it, he's on the hook. Now he wants to try and limit it to half. No, you're too late. Right? When he says harei alai legaleach, it's on me to give the haircuts. So that's it. He's on the hook. Then he says chatzi, too late. Right? For Rabbanan Savri neder upasach imahu, a pesach imahu. It's a neder, and he left a pesach. Right? Same machlokes that we had last week. Meaning he said it. Yes, he said that he's going to be a nazir. He's going to pay for a nazir. Then he said a what do you call it? A limitation on what he said, which is a pesach for him to get out of bringing the full nazirus, right? So that's where the machlokes lies, right? Again, when he says harei alai ligaleach, then the shaila is okay. That's it. It's on you the migaleach. You're stuck with all the korbanos. When he says chatzi nazir, so Rameir says that doesn't work. Chatzi nazir, it's too late. He can't. It's no backsies, right? And the Rabbanan say no, there is backsies. He made a neder, and then he gave a pesach for that thing, right? Okay, fine. Yeah, we'll stop over there. Okay, I didn't send out the Hazara for this. Yeah, okay, I'll send it out right now. Okay, whatever wants to log off, no, it's fine. Hold on. Okay, sent it. So Daf Yomi Nazir, right? If somebody makes a shliach to marry him off to anybody and the shliach dies, he can't marry any woman because he might be marrying a close relative. So we had a kasha from the case of birds. When one flies away, why aren't all birds assur? Because we don't know. Maybe any bird in the world is from this bird that's a korban. So we said you can't compare birds that are flying all over the world. That's parish, and it comes from a majority. Then you can't compare it to a woman who's at home, which is kavua. So kol kavua kamechza al mechza, right? So then we said that there is a limitation. If she doesn't have relatives, then he can marry a woman who doesn't have relatives. And we said that if there was a sister who was married at the time he made a shliach, even though she got divorced, he could still marry the sister because the shliach you can't make a shliach of something that's not muttar him right at that time. So then we had a kasha from our Mishnah that you see that a nazir can say that he's accepting on himself korbanos of a nazir even before the guy even became a nazir. Right. So therefore, so that was the kasha. So we said, I think I jumped the thing. Right. So we said that he can only do a shliach that's muttar. So then we had the kasha from our Mishnah. Right. So we answered that that our Mishnah, a person can't make a shliach unless it's muttar to him at that exact time. So we said as a machlokes, if a guy can nullify a neder, that's before his wife even makes it. Can he pre-nullify another? So we said no. So we said then it must be that it's going according to the mandamar that says that a person can't do it. So if a person can't do it, so we said he really could make a shliach to do it, to be made for his wife's nedarim, but you can't do it because it says Isha Yiferenu Mashma, that if not for that, he could actually make a shliach to knock off his wife's nedarim, even though at that point there were no nedarim. So then we said, no, it's according to Rabbi Eliezer, who says he does allow it. So then why is he making a shliach for? So he's made a shliach in case he forgets. And we had a Mishnah that says 2 people accept on themselves to take care of a half a Nazir, so machlokes if they pay half. So we said, if they say half korbanos, everybody agrees that pays half. If they say korbanos of a half a Nazir, then everybody says that not. If they say haray alai, then that's a machlokes, because he said haray alai, I'm the Nazir. That's on me to pay the Nazirus, and then he can't limit it by saying I'm only paying half, because that's too late. Yeah. Okay, that's enough, and we'll stop over there. And everybody.
You send out your olive?
What?
You send out your olive also?
I didn't send you the olive.
No, you tried it.
I sent it, didn't I? I didn't send you the olive. We didn't do the chazal on Friday.
No, didn't do you.
Okay.
Send it out.
Sorry. Oh, I didn't. I thought we did. Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm not sure how you have the tongue to do.
All right, Avi, you missed some action. You missed some action by Rabbi Groner today.
What happened?
The Sefer Torah was puzzle.
With the little one or the big one?
The new one.
The little one?
The little one, yeah.
Wow.
It was like real puzzle, like not stam puzzle, real puzzle.
You know, we were using
someone telling Rabbi Groner?
We were using the little one for weeks because we thought that there was a problem with the big one.